Feel your warmth beside me. I can hear your heartbeat. Love is
Okay, so I know that I probably owe you guys quite the explanation as to what happened to my 10. You know, I am no longer the owner of my 1G DSM. That is under ownership of Levon now. I just felt like I didn't have the need for two race cars, so I went ahead and I just got rid of it. As you guys know, I was also running into multiple issues with that car, so I didn't have the time of day to be able to work on it and be able to give it the proper care and love that it needs. Levon does, so I went ahead and I sold it to him, and now I have my Evo, which I am now currently rebuilding. More to that. I ran into multiple transmission issues with the car when I had bought it. I went through one transmission and two clutches. So I finished up the second clutch late January, and I drove the car for a week, and driving it for that week was very nice. But at the end of the week on a Friday, I was driving down highway with my girlfriend and cruising with one of my friends and his girlfriend. So we were in both separate cars. And as we're going down the highway, we're doing about 80. I'm about 4,000 RPM in fifth gear. Just cruising, and I see my oil light pop up. And immediately I'm like, well, shit, this isn't good. I threw it in neutral, and I try to let the car coast. And as the car is dropping down in the rev range because I threw it in neutral, as it's dropping down, all I hear is knock, 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 and the car just immediately falls to the floor and shuts off. That's when I was like, uh-oh, that's really not good. I ended up getting off on one of the side streets with just the coasting speed that I had. And when I got off on the side street, I tried to start it again. Obviously, it wasn't budging at all. It wasn't wanting to start or anything. Curtis ends up pulling up behind me, and he has tools in his car. And we went ahead and we checked the crank pulley, and when we checked the crank pulley, she wasn't budging. So immediately right then and there, I knew that I had seized the engine. It was done for. It was toast. It was quite sad, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah. I ended up calling a tow truck, and my girlfriend ended up going to get her car. Curtis took her to go get her car, so that way she could come back and pick me up while I waited for the tow truck. We ended up towing the car home that night, and side note, yes, it did have oil. Immediately when I pulled off on the side of the highway, I popped the hood and checked the oil. Oil was full. It wasn't an oiling issue. Maybe it was oil pressure, but oil pressure doesn't explain the carnage that was made. So I'm going to show you guys, and you guys will see what I mean here in a minute. So basically, I was very sad. I ended up, towing it home that night and just doing my thing. The next morning, I didn't even want to look at it, so I didn't even look at it the next day. For like the next couple days, I didn't even want to rip into it. I was just so tired because I had just finished the clutch on the car and before that transmission, and I just wasn't happy. I was pretty sad, pretty depressed. I don't know. So eventually I went ahead and I wheeled the car into the garage, and I got to tearing it apart and pulling the engine. And I pulled the engine. There's oil shavings everywhere, all over the oil pan, all over everywhere. And I'll show you guys these things here in a minute. And I looked at it, and when I got under and pulled the oil pan originally to look at it, I saw that cylinder number 4 had absolutely no oil. It was entirely starved of oil. It was burnt to a crisp. So I was like, well, that's the one that did it. And yeah, I went ahead and pulled the engine out, got to tearing it apart. I have a new crank, I have rods, I have pistons. I have other small things that I wanted to do to the car anyways, and while it's down, might as well get them done. I got tires, I got all kinds of stuff. New timing chain kit, new oil pump. I went ahead and I made sure to order almost everything. Right now, the block and the head and the new crank that I just bought is at the machine shop. The crank's getting polished, the block is getting honed and decked, and the head is getting cleaned up, just so they can make sure that everything's good on the head. And yeah, that's where I currently stand with the car right now. I'm kind of at a dead stop until I receive those parts back. I can't move forward, and on top of that, I haven't ordered bearings yet, just in case they want me to get larger size bearings, an oversized you know, 25 thousandths or whatever. So yeah, I went ahead and I'm getting that stuff done. And once that stuff gets done, we'll hopefully be back to slapping this thing together. I am getting a new oil cooler, of course. All that stuff that anywhere where oil ran through. I got to clean out my turbo to make sure my turbo is okay. If not, I'll probably just order a new turbo. Probably go bigger or something, since this is going to be a built engine now. Now, internals wise, I went with some Manly H-Tough rods, and I went with their Sport Comp piston. So it's a Manly setup. And I'm probably going to go with their ACL bearings. I was thinking about going with Kings, but I've always had good luck in the past with other cars with ACL, so I'll probably just stick to ACL. So yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and start pulling parts out to show you guys, and so you guys can see exactly what happened. Okay, so as you guys can obviously see, this is cylinder number 4. Absolutely obliterated. Look at that. Shoot. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was discolored. There's a rod cap. Burnt to all hell. Yeah, it's not pretty at all. In comparison to another rod cap, where it's nice and just normally colored. The oil shaving started to get to it. As you can see, the little bit of scoring that started to occur on the other rods. So, yeah. The other rods are okay. The pistons are perfectly fine, but I just went with new pistons since I'm already in there. Might as well do it. The pistons are still good for the most part. They're still pretty good. Here's the crank. This was cylinder 4. Yeah, it definitely was not pretty at all. It was definitely a very bad situation. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about that. I am under the belief that maybe there was one time where I was driving and the bearing spun and it overlapped on the other bearing and it completely closed the oil galley, or it halfway overlapped and it closed the oil galley that feeds that bearing. And it caused it to completely starve of oil, and it just caused the whole car to die. That's basically where I'm at on conclusions as of right now. Other than that, I don't really have any other conclusions, because if it was an oil pressure issue, all 4 would have been screwed. All 4 would have been messed up. And that one, looks like that one was running like that for a little bit before it completely melted it and destroyed it the way it did. So, yeah, that's basically my consensus, is that it just overlapped the bearing and it caused it to... So, yeah, right now we're in the process of rebuilding. We're going to get this thing back to A1 and Sherry, and we're going to get it making more power than it ever has. I have Void Tune... Well, he actually is not Void Tuning anymore. MP Performance. He's going to go ahead and be tuning me whenever the car's ready to go again and I get all my braking miles through. And hopefully we make some more mojo than we did last time. Previous power level was 344 wheel horsepower and 429 foot-pounds of torque. So, yeah, I don't think that torque is accurate, just because I think the dyno was reading weird on the torque, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, I made 344 wheel. And we'll go ahead and we'll see what she does now. Hoping for 500 to start off with, and then from there we'll start turning it up and see where we go. And, you know, with more fuel, because I still need to order injectors and pump. That way I can go ahead and start getting to flex fuel and E85 and all that stuff, and really start making over the 500s and maybe into the 600s. Obviously different turbo setup, all that stuff. So yeah, just stay tuned for all that stuff, because this is about to get really wild, and I'm very excited. Of course, yes, I am sad and I do really miss my car, but I'm very excited. This should be a lot of fun. And yeah. Until next time, guys, that's about the video that I'm going to film right now. I'm probably going to film another video today as well, working on the car, so stay tuned for that one. That'll come out maybe on a later date. And yeah. Bro, your jet is not fast. All right, peace.